Hello everyone, and thanks so much for joining us today. We're doing a follow-up interview in the beautiful home of Cynthia Harrison, the writer, director, and producer of Silver Tsunami. And with us also we have Stephanie Urema. And can you please tell us again what exactly you do?
I work in the assisted living environment with geriatrics, and I am a life enrichment manager.
Wonderful.
For those residents who are living with the challenges of dementia and Alzheimer's.
Okay, well, Stephanie's going to add a lot to the Silver Tsunami, written, directed, and produced by Cynthia. Cynthia, could you please tell us a little bit about what your documentary is about?
So Silver Tsunami is really about the massive wave of baby boomers who are going to be aging into the healthcare system, and it is, the boomers are the largest generation ever born, which I was finding all these facts out when I interviewed the scientists at the Buck Institute for the Research on Aging.
Right.
And I did not, the more I was talking with them, the more I researched, the more I found out that, oh my gosh, it's a crisis. Mm-hmm. It's a crisis that's worldwide and affecting all of us, and it's multi-generational.
How did you happen to be at the Buck Institute? What inspired that?
Well, I was living in Marin County.
Okay.
And I was driving back and forth, and it was this very cool-looking building up on the hill, a very mysterious-looking building. So somebody said it's a research on aging, and I thought, well, maybe it's about beauty treatments, and maybe, you know, let me go in
like
and
Silver Tsunami.
Yeah, let me be the guinea pig. But so I talked to them, and little by little I was finding out that it's a crisis. They're working, it's like against time, to find out, you know, cures, to come up with cures, treatments, interventions for things like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, the diseases that no matter how well we take care of ourselves, we can still get.
Absolutely.
And that's the terrifying part.
And there's preventative measures for Alzheimer's, correct? I mean, we can keep our brain alive as far as games go and mental capacity, but not...
Exactly. They've done studies also over long periods of time at looking at people who are more expressive in their writing. Mm-hmm. One of the research studies I was looking at took some nuns from a convent, and this gentleman had decided to look at how they write and how they express themselves. And what they found was the nuns that were very explicit in their writings about their childhood, meaning, you know, on this particular day it was very sunny and the wind was blowing and the leaves were rustling, and very, very descriptive. A lot of imagery, a lot of creativity. This is what we see in the brain that sort of keeps that at a halt, as it were, with Alzheimer's and dementia, whereas the other subjects that were part of the study that said, well, it was a great day and I went out to the park, but there's no descriptive imagery whatsoever.
Okay.
This is where we see the brain can be attacked a little faster.
People are watching details or not being as observant.
The details and exercising the brain, doing those games that we see now that are so popular, just to always keep it working.
Sure.
Don't be idle, don't be sitting just vegetating away, or not using that inner child of creativity, as it were, to really get through something and get yourself out there and keep that mind going.
Wow,
right?
That's fantastic. Now, Cynthia, you said the epidemic for Silver Tsunami is really starting in countries like China, Japan, and spreading westward. Did you see the biggest influx out east?
The U.S., it's the people who were born between 1946 to 1964, and it was after the war. It was people. It was like this interesting demographic where everybody who could have children did. And they have about 4 of them. So in the U.S. alone, there were like over 70 million boomers born.
Right.
And so I was finding out that within the next 15 years or so, there will be over 70 million seniors just in the U.S., and worldwide about 500 million.
Wow.
So that's a lot of people. And also in Japan, their demographic, they're going to have, I think within the next 15, 20 years, there will be 40% of the population will be over 65.
Wow.
So it's huge. And it, again, their children will have to take care of them. Their children will have to give up their jobs, and then their children's children will be feeling the effect. So this is so multi-generational.
But I feel like in those countries, especially Japan, elders are really put on a pedestal, whereas here I don't think they are as much. I wish it were that way, because we were just going to forget about them. I really despise that concept. But
Yeah.
do you think the Japanese will have their parents living with them more than in America?
Probably they will, but what do they do? But even though they do have the respect for elders, which I love, but what do the kids do? If they're living with them, they still need their jobs, and to
Right.
care for them, that's so time consuming. What do they do with their lives?
So one will stay home, perhaps.
Right, and then in China, there's just as not enough elder care available starting now. So it's really, the theme of my film is to let people know about this crisis, this huge demographic, and the scientists are working to find treatments, to find interventions, to find
Sure.
cures for the different diseases like Alzheimer's, like Parkinson's, and it's supporting that funding. And the scary thing is the funding is being cut, and we need to support it.
Absolutely. Besides the Buck Institute, is there another large institution in the U.S. that really...
Oh, there are many,
Many.
Throughout the U.S. And again, the National Institute of Health, their funding is being cut, so they're having to cut the funding for more of the geriatric
Sure.
kind of research is what they need, and
Right.
they need to step it up instead of cut it.
Wow. And you see every day going into these homes where you give the care. What...
Well, and it's very interesting, because when I first started working in assisted living, and people would ask me, what is the cost involved with staying in an assisted living facility? And it varies depending on which one you choose, but it also varies on whether they have a memory care unit. A lot of assisted living facilities are not designed to handle Alzheimer's, so they may not have a memory or reminiscence wing. Those facilities are going to be more expensive, but I've seen upwards of $5,000 a month all the way up to $8,000 a month. And so when you cover that cost over the year, people sort of panic a little bit. But equally on the other side, home care, as I experienced with my mother before we were making the decision for me to move home to take care of her, it's 2 shifts of 2 nurses or caregivers, 12-hour shifts, and it's $300
Including you being there yourself.
per shift.
Wow.
So for me, I was going to wipe out the 2 caregivers and me be full on.
Sure.
And then when am I going to get that break, right? Which
Yeah.
was so important when my brother and I were discussing this of, are you sure you want to do this? And I'm like, well, I was kind of groomed to do it, so yes.
But then you may have felt resentment towards your brother, because why do you have to? Does that cause
No,
some
actually, I was more than happy to do that,
Okay.
and I was actually more comfortable because it would be in his home.
Sure.
So it was just a matter of finding that balance of being able to have time where I can go decompress for a
Yes,
while.
because you absolutely need that.
And that's what's hard for families.
Right.
They're already
Yeah.
struggling
Right.
with the whole concept of what's going on, but they never get a chance to decompress.
Absolutely.
And that was another thing that I found out in talking with people that I didn't realize. I didn't know that one of my best friends had been caring for her mom with Alzheimer's. And even though her mom is in, a nursing home and has to have another caregiver on top of that, so she was talking about the cost, and the cost is up to, I think, $10,000 a month. And so that's astronomical. And they have some of the long-term care insurance, but it only covers,
a portion.
No, Stephanie, I love that you take care of your mother, and you're doing it in your brother's home and everything like that. But you said you were groomed for that. Now, does that ever create resentment towards your brother?
Not at all. It was actually very easy in moving my mother from where she was to his home here in Southern California, and from that point I was actually moving back to California to move in to help care for her. So I was relieved that she was at least with family, and we didn't need to do that. But the facilities that are there for a reason, obviously, when people can't do that, but care on either side is expensive. It doesn't matter whether it's in the living facility or whether it's at home.
Sure.
It's going to be hard hit. And as Cynthia was saying, long-term care insurance only covers a portion.
It does, and I didn't realize that a friend of mine who I interviewed, ended up interviewing for the film, has been taking care of her mom who's been suffering from Alzheimer's for a number of years. And the stress, the financial part, I mean, she does have long-term care insurance, but that only covers a portion. She has to have an extra caregiver because her mom is at the point where it's, even with she's in a facility, but she needs somebody with her constantly.
All the time.
So my friend now is having to, there's so many things that doesn't even cover, like making sure that all the medication is there, making sure that if she needs a special bed, making sure that everything is attended to. So my friend now has to quit her job. So even though she's in the facility, even though she has extra care,
Wow.
there is so much going into that. And the stress on caregivers, who, as you were saying, it's kind of never ending. And caregivers then are more prone to coming down with different diseases.
Depression or something
Depression,
like that.
even their immune systems really get run down. So
or even for spouses, that's got to be stressful
Exactly.
on that and create friction.
and for families. So if you are, she has a son who is my daughter's age. He was in my daughter's class. And so it affects the whole family because he's
Right.
there. She wants to be there for her son. She wants to be there for her husband. She needs to be there for her mother. It's just very challenging.
And did you see mostly that it's usually women? I mean, I hate to stereotype, but
Yeah.
you said you were rooting for that.
Even though there was another person who I interviewed in the film, Larry, who was, he has Parkinson's. And he was struggling with his Parkinson's while trying to take care of his dad.
Oh.
Wow.
And that was so hard because he would sometimes have to crawl because he didn't
Right.
want to take another medication.
Was this in the U.S.?
In the U.S.,
Okay.
absolutely. So he'd have to crawl to the bathroom to get him something because of his Parkinson's.
Oh,
So
that's devastating.
yeah, absolutely.
Cynthia, since the last time we saw you, what's been the conversation out where you've been traveling as far as Silver Tsunami goes?
People are just, it's become the subject that they want to talk about because it is, everybody has their story. Everybody says, oh my gosh, I don't want it to be my children having to take care of me. I want them to find cures. I want something. I didn't realize this. And it's the awareness. And actually, the film it screened at the Awareness Festival in Santa Monica, and it won the Audience Award.
Wonderful.
Which was fantastic. It is touching a nerve. It is touching people. People are saying, I didn't know this. This is something I need to be aware of. And that's the reason I made the film.
I had a response from a couple listeners. They wanted to know, when are you going to make a movie? And I said, well, we don't know. When are you?
Well, I mean, this is a short. We can always expand it, and I've had a lot of my background is in television. It's also, it might be something that I want to expand for an hour for, a PBS kind of a thing, or a feature. I don't know. It's taken on a life of its own. People are just so touched and moved by the subject matter.
Cynthia, I love what you said with Brian in your last interview, that you wanted to make it short for a reason.
Right.
If you're going to take it to Congress, you're a senator, people are going to pay attention if it's 20 minutes versus
Right.
90 minutes.
Yeah, attention spans aren't always the most.
Absolutely.
So if I do, and I figured that about 23 minutes would be good, and I can always expand it, but yes.
And there's so much to
exactly.
cover, you could easily make it a feature.
Exactly.
Right, even with a specific storyline, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I really do want to follow the people who as I was doing this, and I was
Larry.
saying, like Larry or Brenda, and the people who, what's happening now? How are they now as Larry's Parkinson's is progressing?
Sure.
His dad did pass away, but then his wife came down
no.
with breast cancer, so he was then caring for her. She's better, but just so much that's going on. How does that affect?
Parkinson's is especially hard because that can lead to depression on top of that,
can.
so he's probably
Yep.
dealing with a lot.
Yes.
Wow,
yes.
well, we'd love to follow Larry. So
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, thank you for your work with that. But so Stephanie, every day you're sometimes with different clients, or you're freelance?
Now it's all on a self-employed basis.
Okay.
And individual clients, scheduling time throughout the week and working on those moments, as I was sharing with Cynthia earlier, and finding that window of time and bringing that person kind of back, I don't want to call it back to reality, but just bringing them back into the now. And you really need to focus on watching what they're doing, listening to what they're saying to you
Right.
when you're having a conversation, and finding that open door, if you will, and then pulling them back. And a lot of times we see so many people that are just sitting and there's no interaction. I know
They're
with
lonely.
my mom, it was crucial to make sure that even though she was pretty much a loner type person, and she enjoyed reading and her crossword puzzles, which she was still doing up until the very end.
Good.
But it was more important that she have somebody sit with her and have a meal.
And just a sense of touch or something.
Yes, that having that sense of touch and a meal with someone was the
Right.
crucial part of the day. Any other time for her being by herself, she was fine because she had other things she was doing. But that meal, sitting alone and
Yeah.
having a meal, that's where
Very crucial.
very crucial.
And that usually
Because
at night.
a lot of times what will happen is then they won't eat at all.
Yes.
Or you'll find them eating this much of a meal and
Or
the
just
rest of it
chocolate or
goes back
something
into
fun.
yeah, that was my mother. Chocolate.
Yeah. I think it's about women in general. If we could only eat chocolate, how great would that be?
But I've seen it with so many, they get a hamburger and they'll eat like a quarter of it and the rest of it goes back in the fridge.
Their iron
And-
deficiency goes down. Everything.
Yes,
Anemia.
there's so much that happens, and that's why that meal is crucial, and having it with someone.
And I've also read that a lot of them don't. I don't want to blanket stereotype, but a lot of them don't clean as well. So that can lead to UTIs and things like that. That's a very common thing.
They need assistance with that, and that's what it really comes down to when you look at long-term care and what have you, having come from the insurance world as well, is the first thing they assess is what they call the 5 or 6 activities of daily living. When you can no longer do at least 3, that's when we need to start looking at
and what are
getting
the
some
top?
assistance.
The top 3 are.
I knew you were going to ask me that.
Oh no.
Well,
in alphabetical order.
You have transferring and toileting, bathing, feeding yourself, dressing yourself, all of those things.
What we
So-
look at as necessities, but to them, it's much more daunting.
Yeah,
Right.
Okay.
very much so. To
So
lose
talk
the
about-
ability to button your shirt.
Sure.
Right.
is- yeah.
And all that.
Talk about how this has changed your life in general. What are the changes have you been having?
I got this fuel band. It's interesting. I'm realizing, and what it's doing is it's showing like fuel and how much I'm getting up. And I didn't realize as a writer producer, I'm sitting there. I'm very sedentary. I can't be. I've got to, keep moving. And I think I'm moving. And I look at my vitamins. I don't always take them, but it's saying how many steps did I take a day. And the scientists were saying we should really take up to 10,000 steps a day, which is a lot. Because when I'm really moving, I look at the band, it's like, 5,000 maybe. And I think that I did more. So it's pushing me to do more. I've always tried to eat right. I'm really trying to. I'm looking at, I'm telling people about finances too. It's like, we don't realize that
Preparing for the future.
Preparing for the future. The other thing that I found out, which I had no idea, is that just a fraction of the people who are in retirement age have any more than like $25,000 in savings. So you need to prepare. It's changed me in that I'm getting the word out. I feel like I'm an advocate.
And Cynthia, what do you have coming up in the future?
Well, I have some projects that are in development, but right now I'm working on their other film festivals that I have this out to. I'm following this. I mean, the response is amazing.
Wonderful.
For this film. So I'm going with it. I'm running with it and seeing where it's going to go. And it's been quite a great ride.
Have you had more people think it's a beauty treatment?
Yeah, not
It would actually be a really good name for a product. Silver Tsunami.
Silver Tsunami.
And you
It's
do
like
have beautiful
somebody
skin.
Thank you. No, but people are saying I didn't realize it's scary, but I'm so happy that I know about this because we need to do something.
Well, even when I Googled it, it wasn't just it is a term.
It's a term, and yeah, absolutely, it's a term. I have my
And a
attorney make sure.
fantastic term, really. It really describes it
is.
to a T.
It's a term that says it's the people getting older and this wave, this
Yes.
massive wave of baby boomers that will be flooding the world.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And my horror finding out I'm part of that group.
Yeah.
Well, you look young, and you know preventative measures. You know what to do, what not to
Absolutely.
do.
Yeah.
And I have my $300 creams. Trust
Good for
me.
you, creme de la mer. Well, very good, and you do great work every day.
Thank you.
And what is your
I-
escape? What do you like to do on your
Law and Order.
Law and Order? Like you said, the marathons.
Marathon Law and Order.
If we could just have a theater like this to come home
Yes,
to every day, like
I
Cynthia.
decompress. So Cynthia, I might be over on Sunday.
I'll be playing tennis with you outside, so you can get your fuel bracelet going.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And putting.
Cynthia, how do people reach you? You have Facebook account, Twitter account, Instagram?
Yes, I have a website. It is www.silvertsunamimovie.com, and also Facebook page of Silver Tsunami Movie. So yes, please. Or
And you're
go
on
to the
Twitter.
website.
it's the movie.
I don't.
It's underscore. There's an underscore in
Underscore.
it. I
I
can check
think
it.
it's Silver. Yeah.
But if you look it up, there are plenty of tweets
yeah,
on it.
Yeah, definitely.
And look for my tweets on it.
Definitely. Thank you. Yes.
Absolutely.
But the website has everything. It has a Twitter. It has, the Facebook. It has all the news, all the events. And if anybody wants to purchase one of the DVDs, it has that on there too.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Can people make donations any place to a particular place that you know of, or is it hard to say?
They can't. Buck Institute, they're wonderful. They were so great, and they're saying their frustration is that their labs are closing. They're constantly trying to get people to give money. And places like that, there are many institutes for research on aging. Find out, start with Buck, go see others, and do, even if it's a little, if everybody just gave a little, that would be very important. Also, they can talk to their council person. I had a problem here with DWP. I went to my councilman, and I didn't know that I could go to my councilman. They were so responsive. Let them know that this is a problem, that this is an issue we'd like them to get involved with.
And I think just in everyday life too, if you're at the grocery store or somewhere, always say hello to them when they're sitting by themselves, or buy them a cup of
Absolutely.
coffee at a cafe. I get so much enjoyment out of that.
Yeah.
Because why forget about these important people? So
Yeah, absolutely.
again, thank you so much for joining us in the beautiful home theater of Cynthia Harrison, writer, director, producer of Silver Tsunami. And thank you so much for joining us today, Stephanie,
you
who
for
is an
having me.
independent caregiver. Very, very important job.
Thank you very
And
much.
again, this is Anne from Movie Reviews and More with Brian Sebastian.